welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Bottom, Season 4, Episode 26, aka the first episode after the show's first ever break. I am your host, Alejandro, and with me, a returning guest star from middle of June, and now frequent guest star of the show, Eric Bezanson, aka Game Positive YouTube. How are you doing, Eric?
Hey, how's it going? I appreciate the invite. Back-to-back casts for us. I love it.
Yeah, we definitely didn't just finish recording a 2-hour discussion about an incredible DLC just now, and then me being like, hey, if you have time, do you want to join in so we can have another podcast episode, because at the time I get you, but here we are. It's yeah, nice to have you back after a month. Can you believe it's been a month since we did?
Yeah, when you said June, I was like, how's it really been? I was thinking last year June. I was like, oh my god, actually it's July right now. What's going on? I don't know.
July 10 when we're recording. So yeah, we're back again. It's and yes, you can actually go over to the Season Gaming YouTube channel to see the live that we were just participating and to talk about Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, which we both beat, and I raved about Erdtree in the last episode I did before the 4th of July induced break. That was the first time I took a break in the 4 years that I've done the show. I've done the only breaks that I took were the holiday for December, but it was every week. But that one just didn't line up well for me. Be like, yeah, I'm going on vacation. This will be my first one. But thank you for being here, Eric. And then as a quick reminder that this is the X Bottom Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 10 a.m. onwards, God willing. Available on the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at tinyurl.com/escapegaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. And then just as a little as a quick kind of housekeeping, you can go check the little crossover that I did with Eric a month ago, where I guested over his returning podcast when we talked about the showcases that were about to come out, and then when he came over for the X Bottom to talk about the results and other things about how the showcases went. So I know it's a month old, but since Eric is here, might as well bring that up on top of the little crossover we just did over at Season Gaming. So Eric, real quick, what have you been playing of note that's not Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree?
Well, I finished Shadow of the Erdtree. I am not typically the type of gamer that will replay stuff or do New Game Plus. I just don't have enough time, and I have way too many games I want to play. So that's actually, this is probably sacrilegious to say, but that's not even installed currently. But I am still gaming, obviously. One game I just started yesterday, actually, because it just released yesterday, that I'll quickly mention, that's kind of under the radar, I think. It's called Once Human. I actually didn't know about it at all until a friend of mine's wife, there's a group of people that just kind of game together. Most of them are friends from work, and they're just she just messaged me and said, we're all playing this game, and I was like, what the hell is this game? And then she said it's free, and I was like, okay, well, I'll play it. It's kind of it's actually weirdly kind of like Power World, in the sense of how you progress, and there is kind of companions that you can catch. But imagine Power World with a Division kind of aesthetic in terms of your character, and then the combat. It's more grounded. It's more military style, but it takes place in this weird kind of X-Files meets Stranger Things future. But it's the same concept where you're dropped in this weird world. You don't know what's going on. There's definitely more story, more cutscenes, but it's a survival game, so you're building a house, and the maps is way bigger than Power World. And I'm playing it on PC, so I'm not, and I played Power World on console, so I'm not sure how big of a difference it was. But in this game in particular, there's player houses everywhere. So when you want to build, you have to put a thing down on the ground that marks a specific piece of territory on this ginormous map, and anyone who's in that server will see that. It's more like Rust in that way, I guess. So it's really cool. It feels really social, and I'm just starting with that. I'm only 4 hours in, but I played that 4 hours straight yesterday. I only planned on playing for half hour, an hour, but it's actually really cool because it has that very addictive progression loop that Power World has, which in my opinion was the best part of Power World. So I've been playing that. I've been playing Valorant actually on console. Plays very, very well on console. If you're playing it on Xbox especially, it's amazing because it feels like a game, one of a buy to play multiplayer game, because you have everything unlocked in terms of all the characters via Game Pass. It doesn't fall into that kind of trap with a lot of those games where you get a couple characters here and there, kind of like multiverses, which is another thing I'm playing, where you have to unlock everything, and it costs a lot of money or takes a very, very long time. And yeah, the other game I'm playing is Multiverses, which really was unplayable at launch. So I kind of just shelved it, and I came back recently when I saw that they're adding Agent Smith, who
Wait,
just
is he
kind of
really?
yeah. So you can people that had early access can play as him right now. If you boot up the game and go to training, you can play as him right now. The way to unlock him is to beat 20 of the rifts, which you can do for free. It doesn't cost any money. It just takes some time, some serious time. He'll be available to be purchased, I think, next week or something like that, or a week after. But it's so awesome. Like his I don't know how familiar you are with those types of games, but his forward special or forward Y or forward triangle on PlayStation is literally like the diving, shooting the guns like Matrix style. It's
really,
yeah, it's so awesome. That game is very, very cool. And I looked at the leaked the leaks
roster.
For all the roster. It's just awesome. Those, I would say, those are probably the main games. I'm still chipping away at Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you how far are you into Rising Tide, because I know you started the last DLC.
Do you want to know what really, really pisses me off?
Say it.
There's an achievement in the other DLC, or trophy, where it's literally like collect all the items, and the items that you collect, there's like 4 or 5 or something like that. They're literally just these chests that are just like beside the door to go into the boss room.
You missed one?
And I missed one.
Oh no.
And I realized I missed it after I killed the boss, and I couldn't go back, and that soured me so much. Even though I will say the last fight in that DLC was
Omega fight.
It's hard to say. It's probably like 1A 1B situation from what I've seen so far, which is almost everything in the base game. In terms of Rising Tide, I think I am maybe a third. I got to a part where you kind of like get to, I guess, a city, and I'm like kind of a little bit past that.
You still haven't gotten the power, right?
I just got the power.
Okay, yeah, you're halfway through now. So
okay, yeah. So I do want to chip away at that because I got some other stuff I need to play soon. I need the space on my PlayStation 5.
Yeah, it's 100 gigs that game.
Yeah, I actually I am very like sporadic with how many games I'm playing, which is why I can't do New Game Plus and stuff like that very often. But I got a new monitor yesterday, and it actually supports VRR, which my current TV doesn't. Ooh, and I wanted to try Starfield on it, and I just kind of like
you got lost.
I saw this post on Reddit a long time ago that kind of intrigued me, where this person said that the best way to play Starfield is to just create a character and then do what everyone tells you to do, like the NPCs. And if someone tells you to do something else that's not what you're currently doing, just stop and go do that thing. It's like the ADHD playthrough, I think is what they call it.
Oh no.
And so I've been doing that, and it's actually like pretty fun because you feel like a little bit more immersed. And that's kind of how I've been playing. I don't know how long the sense of fun playing it that way will last, but I will say on the VRR in this monitor on top of the performance patch that came a little while ago, it's running perfect for me. It feels really awesome. Last thing I'll say right quick is I got kind of hooked back into Magic the Gathering via the Assassin's Creed expansion pack, which is like very weird combination. Yeah. Oh, I don't have it with me because I brought it to the office, but like I bought like the starter kit paper version, like the actual cards, and like one deck is like Ivor red white deck, and like the other one's like Ezio blue black deck. It's very cool. It's very, very cool. So I kind of been playing MTGA a little bit, the Magic the Gathering Arena. It's on mobile and it's on Steam. It's free to play. It's a little bit or intimidating, I would say, as soon as you boot it up, but they have a lot of ways that you can play that without having to spend a lot and without having to have a huge collection and without having to have a lot of knowledge. It's a little complicated to explain, but they let you do different types of events, and they have events that just give you pre-con decks, and I just been doing that. So it's my long list.
Yeah, you're definitely playing a lot. Definitely a lot more than me. I've been like I went back to Dark Souls 2. That's the other than that and Demon Souls are the two ones that I haven't beaten yet of all these Souls games. And Dark Souls 2 was the one that, because I went backwards after doing Elden Ring, and then I did Dark Souls 1, and then I did Dark Souls 3. because they all kind of feel very similar. The Miyazaki ones, two always like felt off for me, like when you play those, and I really hated like how you could get overwhelmed with that and how just wrong it felt to me that you couldn't automatically do the iframe dodging without like, having to upgrade the adaptability stat. That drove me insane. But because I'm kind of like fiending like the post Elden Ring blues, like they call it, or like the post From Software blues, that you're feeling like, oh man, I didn't want that to end just right now, and nothing is quite hitting the spot. I've been like still chipping away at both the Final Fantasy VII remake and Rebirth Platinum, and I was like, I'm still feeling for Dark Souls for like a Souls like. So I was like, I'm gonna give Dark Souls 2 another shot, and I've been like doing that. I just I have to fight this spider that has like two faces, and the issues like a lizard. That's kind of where I am. I don't know how far I am into getting close to beating it, or if that's halfway point. I don't know, but that's like the last thing that I did. So I don't know if you remember, because that was the first one you played, right?
First one I finished. Yeah. Okay. So you you have the luxury, I should say, of not having to play them on like 360 PS3.
Yeah.
Because like I remember like what's it called, the swamp area in Dark Souls 1.
Oh, Blighttown. Oh my
god, Blighttown.
I've seen videos of it. I've been running at 10-15 frames a second.
Yeah, so there's that. It didn't run very well. The game is obviously Dark Souls 1, amazing game, and after I beat Dark Souls 2, which I actually really like it. I never played the original form of it. I just played the Scholars of the First Sin version, because it was buttery smooth, 60 FPS. It was very, very cool. I loved the music. I actually loved the like Ninja Turtle guys. I love that boss that just I don't even know if you call him a boss, but that like I can't remember what his name is. He just kind of shows up and tries to kill you sometimes, like in a bunch of different places. It's not like you walk into a room and fight him. He just kind of shows up when you.
Yeah, it's not like one of those like summon like red ones, right? Or is it
no, it's just this guy, this big black armor guy. He just shows up and he'll just show up randomly.
Yes, no, I found him like in the shaded trees, like randomly. He was just there waiting for me. I was like,
yeah. And sometimes I don't know if it's like only in specific spots. I assume it's probably only in specific spots, but yeah, I remember that Majula, the music, so good. I just there was like a period, which is right around when Dark Souls came out. It was like 2010 to like maybe 2009 to like 2012, 13. I pretty much only played Dota 2 and League of Legends. I didn't play anything. I completed like every good game that came out in that era. I missed. I had to go back to like Red Dead. I never finished that. Alan Wake was one I made time for, but there's a lot of games I missed. Dark Souls 1 was one of them. And when Dark Souls 2 came out, like there was no back compat, so you couldn't go play it on Xbox One at improved performance. You just had to play it on a 360, and yeah, so I actually started with 2. That's like my Elden Ring for you.
Nice. Yeah, it was like my first one was Demon Souls. I'd rented Demon Souls and couldn't get into it. Like, it was like, imagine trying to get into that kind of game back in 2009, me being like 16 years old, and we were knee deep into cinematic era. That was kind of like that was the Uncharted 2 era, Infamous and all that. That was like I rented it
might have played that first. I can't. I remember. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because it was like I played it because it came out of nowhere and it was reviewing highly, and it was like in my rentals place. So I was like, I heard this is like a highly regarded. So let me try that. And then I tried briefly. It's like, this controls kind of. At the time, I was like, this controls kind of suck. Holy crap, this is hard. And going through this bridge, the dragon burned me. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back. Feeling this. So
I used to download video podcasts from G4 on my iPod and watch them on the bus to work. I used to work at Best Buy, and I remember I got a TV, like an HD TV, and I didn't have PlayStation. But then like there was like a return PS3 that was like beat up, and they had to like sell it open box, and it was like a cheap way to buy a Blu-ray player. So I bought that, and then I got the game, or I saw the podcast, the 2.5-inch screen video review for Demon Souls, where they really liked it. It might have been GameStop. I can't remember exactly which, or GameSpot. I can't remember which review it was. But,
it must have been them. They gave a Game of the Year in 2009. One of the only ones that gave.
Yeah,
they didn't give Uncharted 2 Game of the Year. It was like weird that one won for them. So
yeah, and so I actually, they had a used copy at my work, which we got a discount on, so kind of just the stars aligned, and I bought it. But it was similar to you. Although compounding that was the fact that I was playing on a PS3 with a Mad Catz controller because it didn't come with a controller, and I don't have any friends on PlayStation. I don't use that controller ever. I'm only an Xbox or PC at that point, and so it really wasn't the best experience. And that game ran even worse than Dark Souls on 360. So
yeah, because it was Dark Souls ran really well until you got to Blighttown. Blighttown was like the only pain point. On top of it being already a hard area, you having to battle the performance. I was like, so glad I played the remastered.
The TV, and the other thing that it doesn't get talked about as much is like TVs that people owned at that time. They couldn't display contrast very well. So not like having a super hard area with a super low frame rate that's super dark. It's like literally the worst combination. There was no OLED. There was no game like full array backlight. No game mode. Dude, it was rough, really rough.
Yeah, we have it so good now, and especially now everyone that can go to Dark Souls 1 like I did, because I didn't tell it in our crossover that we just recorded or for season gaming for Eric 3. It was like halfway through my first Elden Ring playthrough, I started a Dark Souls playthrough, kind of like I said, okay, everything clicked for me with Elden Ring. What would happen if I go back to Dark Souls? Could I still play it? And then I stopped playing Elden Ring and finished Dark Souls 1. Like while everyone was like at the peak of Elden Ring, I went back to Dark Souls 1 because I could not believe that it had clicked for me. Like I understood everything. I understood the stats. I understood like the pace. And it's like it's so wild how consistent the design has been that obviously we get better quality of life later on, but it, like the core of the idea has been the same, and it's just like it just takes one for you to click, and then everything just kind of clicks into place. And I love Dark Souls 1, except the stupid spider boss that was like the gimmick boss at hell that was like so random. But then other than that, it was like Blighttown hard plays, but it was running as perfect 60, so I knew the stories. But I didn't have to experience the horrors that people experienced back in 2011.
Once you get the Anne Orlando, you're just like, oh my god, this game. Yeah, it's
Anne Orlando was amazing. That was like, wow. And to think that you get like fast travel so late in that game, and just to me, what blew my mind of Dark Souls 1 at the time was like when I played it, I was like, holy crap, this game was huge. It's like I did not expect this thing to be this packed.
Games were not like that, man. Yeah, back then. Not that's that far long ago, but 2011 or whatever. But that,
that was like 13 years ago. Think about that, or even more. Yes, it was like it
that was like Assassin's Creed 3, I think.
It used
so
to be
like Assassin's,
yeah. Assassin's Creed 3 was considered one of the bigger Assassin's Creed games at the time, next to Far Cry 3. So it was like that blew my mind. I was like, wow, it's like they really went for broke. That felt like Miyazaki being like, you know what? I barely could scrape by and do another one of these games after what happened with Demon's Souls that Sony didn't even want to publish in the US because they didn't believe in it. So let's put everything in the line. That's how to me how I felt. And the fact that they made a trilogy of that is still wild that he still had that much in the can. So Dark Souls 1's really good. Really good.
I actually bought that like trilogy collection on PS4 because I didn't own them there, and I have never played it, never got a single trophy on PlayStation for those games. So that's the one reason why I would replay something. I know Ian's is probably shaking his fist, but I love trophies and I love achievements. So
yes, it's like there's a good thing. I was talking with my podcast co-host that he's still in his paternity leave, that kind of like the philosophy of achievements versus trophies, that achievements at the very least feels like collecting something that, because it's not much of a checklist and no platinum on top of it, you can get as little as many achievements as you want and not feel like the guilt. Whereas on with the trophy system, because you can get a platinum at the end, you feel more incentivized to really go for the 100% in that, and it's really bad for OCD. But
see, I don't feel guilty necessarily, but so if I was playing Final Fantasy 7 or 16, on Xbox, I would feel great because I got like 95%, I got like 900 gamer score, 950, like that's awesome. That's a huge chunk. I got a lot done in this game, love the game. On PlayStation, it's like, no, you had to play this entire thing, this 100 hours again, slightly harder to get this platinum, and if you don't get then that makes me mad. I hate games that make you replay. It used to be like way back, there would be trophy lists or achievement lists where you'd have to play it several times on every difficulty. You'd have to play it on easy. They didn't stack the so like that was horrible too. And
Prince of Persia Trilogy HD did that. The one on PS3, it was like you couldn't stack the difficulty trophies. You have to like play that game 3 times.
That's horrible. That sucks.
Yeah, I love the trophies that are like you can get the platinum and all in one single run. I love that from the both Horizon games. I did that with both God of War games, with the Spider-Man games, except Miles Morales. Miles Morales, you have to repeat it, but it's a short game. It didn't bother me too much, but it was like I did feel I was like, man, if only I could have done the one playthrough. But
Spider-Mans are awesome.
Yes, and I'm a big trophy. I'm at 67 platinums now, so I'm trying to like time the Crisis Core remake and Reverse Platinum to be like the 70 when I get there, but yeah, it's like a struggle. And real quick, I've been playing Luigi's Mansion 2, the remake that came out. That's been kind of like my chill game because I went to a lake house for 4th of July. My uncle came to visit and read, so I took the session. I've been playing there. It took me a little bit to kind of get into it because I already had played Luigi's Mansion 3, and going from like a seamless, more adventurous game where then you go to 2 that it's a level-based game with like tiny places and then it starts and it stops. It was a little hard to kind of like get into it at first because I was like, oh man, I miss the seamlessness of just really exploring this place, and the few stops would be kind of like story-based instead of like being like being removed of the mansion, talk with the doctor and select a new mission, all that. But eventually, like as a handheld game made more sense because obviously it was a 3DS game. And when I finally recontextualizes that, I like playing it in handheld and having the TV on and like catching up on TV. That I was like, that's where it really clicked, and I'm really enjoying it. Really funny game. The one thing I miss from the original Luigi's Mansion that's not in 2 and 3 is that the first one could be scary. It could be really creepy. 2 and 3 are more comedies, which I like. They're funny. I actually I really laughed at some of the animations from the ghosts. It's funny. But that original one on GameCube was like could really creep you out. Like a baby boss that then becomes like big and will do like the horrible face. Like you would have to go to like someone that was either doing a Ouija board or something. Or it was like doing like she could call in the spirits and it would start like trembling. It was like there was creepy stuff in the original one that they moved away from. Probably because
I never played it. I hope they remake it because the first one I played was 3, and it's really a special game for me. It's probably in my top 10, 15 only because like that's the first game I was able to play with my daughter. And so like the biggest aspect of why I liked it is because of the co-op with her, and this one doesn't have that. So that's why I didn't rush out to get it. I will get it because I want to own it, but I really hope they remaster the first one too, so I can have the full trilogy. Have you played just a side note, have you played Zenless Zone Zero?
I tried it a little bit and I got really annoyed. I got really annoyed at how wordy it had, the persona thing of like having too much like stop talking. I was like, the combat's actually really flashy and all that, and I like that, but it's like I'm not right now in the mood for too much dialogue.
I haven't given up on it, but that was my first impression too. I kind of want to try because the combat I saw, especially like some of the later stuff, looks insane. But that was kind of my first impression too.
Yeah, but so far right now it's been Demon's Souls and Luigi's Mansion for me right now, as I've been kind of like in that post Elden Ring depression, and we're gonna play Concord really soon with the beta. It's coming out soon.
Yeah, that's technically for me that's tomorrow.
Yeah, well, technically for me too. So, yeah, you let me know and we're gonna play it. You got us the hookups.
Yeah, I'm hoping to play it all 3 days. That's why I got this new monitor. I'm ready to go.
Hope it's good. So Eric, now let's jump into kind of like one of the reasons that I wanted to bring you in, because I think it would be fun to talk to you about what's your favorite game, at least 3 or 5 of your favorite games that you've played so far, since now we're already past halfway through a year. It's been like the first 6 months are kind of like behind us. We already beat one of ostensibly a big DLC that could be considered a game based on size, even though it's still DLC. Can't wait to see what sites decide to do whenever award season comes for that one. But being like I've been playing a lot, and I've been like trying to think about like what would be like my game of the year. But I would like to hear like for you what's been, because I think you've been like, it's been interesting knowing what you played from this year and kind of like what your backlog is. And I would just like to hear like how's 2024 treating you. Like
well, it's been great, honestly. I will say this list will definitely change by the end of the year. Not only is there lots of awesome stuff down the road, but a lot of the heavy hitters that you'll probably talk about, I haven't played yet. Like a lot of the AAA stuff that Sony's put out, I missed most of that. except one, which I'll mention in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly, I want to give a small shout out to, technically doesn't count because it came out I think December 29 or 30th last year.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an indie game called Buckshot Roulette. I think it's
heard of
PC.
this. Mm-hmm.
I think it's PC only for now, but
Mm-hmm.
it's been very successful. So at least it will come to Switch, I would say. It's very cool. If you like Inscription, at least like the tone and kind of the philosophy around that game, not necessarily have to be a card game fan. It's very similar vibes. It's a very it's one of those games where it's like a very simple mechanic that just keeps kind of like growing. Essentially, you're just at a table with an NPC, and there's a shotgun. And you just play Russian roulette with the shotgun. There's a lot of power-ups and different things that you can get or use and acquire that can give you like different information and or affect the gun in different ways. So like there's a power-up that will let you kind of look in the chamber and see what kind of bullets in there, whether it's a blank or a real one. To win, you have to shoot them 2 times. So there's a one where you can get a saw and cut the saw off the shotgun and make it do double damage. And like but the enemy has the same access to random thing. It's just like kind of a puzzle game with a shotgun that you have to play Russian roulette with. It's pretty simple, but it's very fun. It's very cheap too. I think I paid for like $3 for it. So if you have a PC, I would consider checking that one out. In terms of games that actually came out this year, though, I have a bunch I can shout out. I will say recently or semi-recently, I think it may have been last month, Animal Well is very, very cool. That's a game you could probably beat in like 1 or 2 settings, but it's one of the most creative Metroidvanias that I've ever seen. Though a lot of Metroidvanias kind of borrow from each other, and they kind of separate themselves with like art style and like boss fights and stuff like that. This one kind of it does have a pretty unique art style, I must say, but it really just has kind of interesting mechanics. It's made by one guy. It's the first game published by Big Mode, which is Donkey's publishing arm. So it's really cool to see someone who just made a bunch of money talking about games on YouTube reinvest it into the industry and have something like this come out as the first attempt. Really, really cool. Speaking of indies, I think potentially my favorite or second favorite game so far is definitely Balatro. That game is such a genius design. It is so addicting. I have bought it on Xbox and on PlayStation, and I am going to buy a physical copy. I just haven't decided on what platform yet because it's probably never going to be opened. I was thinking about Switch. But like I don't know, man. My Switch collection is like in a different room. It's not like behind me. Logically, it makes the most sense to buy it on Switch. But yeah, that's another game made by one guy. Super successful. Like he probably will keep making games because that's what creative people do. They create. But he's definitely set for life now, just based on the success of that game.
Oh yes.
Super fun. If you haven't heard of it somehow, it's kind of like a poker roguelite. I know you're kind of thinking, how can poker be a roguelite? Well,
it's really
I didn't know either, but you'll find out immediately as soon as you play it. It's in India as well, so it's not super expensive, although I will say it's probably like more of a triple I in terms of cost. I think I can only speak in Canadian loonies and toonies, so it
like
might
20 it's like 20 US if I remember
correctly. I think I pay like $28.99 or like around 30 after tax or something like that, but that's been really good. I was thinking I pretty much just played like indie puzzle games like that and Metroidvanias, because the other game that I played that's really, really good is Prince of Persia.
That's one of mine. Yeah.
This is my advice is because like I said, Metroidvanias borrow heavily from each other, and this game definitely does that. But one thing that really can set it apart from a lot of other Metroidvanias, because I tried to play Tales of Kinzaro as well, but I just was like, I can't play 2 Metroidvanias at the same time, so I had to drop one.
They look so similar to Kinzaro and Lost Crown, like superficially.
Yeah, I think that this is nothing against Kinzero Zao. I think it just ultimately was which one did I start first, which happened to be Prince of Persia. So I'm going to come back to Tales eventually. But if you up the combat difficulty to max in Prince of Persia, not only is it a cool Metroidvania, really awesome platforming and like a cool story, but like the combat is so it's like a
DMC
2D
like it's
Sekiro.
yeah, it's DMC like also, and like the things that you could eventually do with juggling all those abilities together in combat too.
Yeah, but just yeah, I might not have unlocked enough to get to that point yet, but just with a lot of the earlier stuff and like just
Mm-hmm.
the more standard sword fighting and countering, it feels
The
similar. Like
timing,
it
yes.
feels similar to Sekiro, and like this is I guess a tiny slight spoiler. There are like the trope of where you kind of do like a mirror matchup
Mm-hmm.
for some reason I won't get into. And when you start doing those fights, it feels kind of like a Sekiro boss, where it's like parrying and anticipation and all that stuff is like super important, which is not normally, and it's super punishing if it's on hard too, which makes you really have to nail the timing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not super common for a lot of Metroidvanias. A lot of times you can get away with spamming and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, really great game. Very surprising game too, because it's not what you necessarily expect from Ubisoft, although it makes sense when you find out like it was the Rayman Origin teams that made it. Very talented group. But I would say still probably squeaks out my favorite game so far this year is Helldivers 2.
Yeah, and you reviewed it too.
Yeah, it's that I know there's like articles you can find now where it's like, oh no, the player base 90%. Who
the
fucking
same
cares?
yeah, the same BS of all the time.
Yeah,
Like
they are farming clicks.
Clicks.
People that hate Helldivers and wanted to see it burn are gonna click on that link. People that like Helldivers that get mad when shit like this happens are gonna click on that link and share it and see how stupid it is. It's just literally engagement farming, and I hate those articles. They make them about every game. It's so stupid, and it's not even true because you only have access to Steam's data.
Yes.
So
thank you for saying that. I hate that everyone just uses the Steam numbers to kind of like paint the game success or not like overall, and I'm like,
yeah. Steam's the most like popular place to play on in the world. Yeah, it does have the most users. They play the same 10 games. The average age of the top 10 games on Steam is like 10 years. So it's Dota, it's Counter-Strike, it's like Rainbow Six I think is on there, PUBG. It's like the same shit. I'm not trying to hate on Steam. I love Steam. I use it every day. I've been playing. I just spent 5 hours on Steam yesterday with Once Human. So nothing against Steam, but those articles just suck. But Helldivers was awesome. Not only is the game, the core concept of it, like just the core mechanics, fun, but and awesome, but the kind of like meta story that evolves not only in the game but like in the community is something that is so unique that I can't think of pretty much any game that's kind of captured a community that well, because like people are talking to each other on the subreddit like in character,
like during the game, yeah, like
universe.
they're soldiers in the game. Yeah.
And the Twitter account and the one guy that runs like the galaxy map, and it's just like it's so cool. And I hope that they have a good pipeline for content, because I think that there is a risk if there's a long wait between a major drop that it could kind of die on the vine a little bit. But if they come like there's got to be a showcase like this fall, September, something like that. If they come there with like a expansion that reveals the third faction, Helldivers is going to blow up again. It's going to be awesome. And I know they had the stupid account stuff that kind of derailed a little bit, but I don't care about that.
I know.
It doesn't affect me.
Yeah, we played it on PlayStation anyways. So
Yeah.
and the thing is that what I love most about Helldivers 2 was seeing the next way, the next form of a live service that was not just the MMO lights that almost a lot of those are live services that come and go and die in the vine, aka Suicide Squad. That I'm like, it was cool seeing a success like that, a game that was like harkened back to old school shooter design instead of us being bombarded with like a million different things, one that didn't really gouge you like so many looters, like a recent one like the first Descendant. It's just like completely egregious about like how he's trying to extract money from you. It's like I really love the success of Helldivers. There were 12 million copies sold, which is nuts for that game, and knowing that any cool update will have that many people, they're ready for them to come back. And it was like some of the funniest times that I had like playing a game this year with someone. I enjoyed the times I was playing it with you when you were doing the review, like all the chats we were having, because it was it could be an exciting game and a chill game at the same time, depending on how you wanted to dial it up. And the tone so perfect with the Starship Troopers. Like, yeah, Helldivers 2 was so good. And I know for my that is my co-host Paul's game of the year still to this day. So
I would have to agree.
Yeah,
not that I've played everything, but yeah,
I know. I played a little bit more, and you mentioned two of my games, which were like Prince of Persia and Helldivers 2, which were kind of early, and I definitely want to shout out Tekken 8. Also came out earlier this year, and I'm not much of staying in the fighting game of like playing online and all that, but like the story mode of Tekken 8, even though it's like 2 or 3 hours long, is like one of the wildest like story modes for a fighting game that I've ever seen in my life. Is like so hype and like so insane, like it's insanely wild that it was like a great spectacle. If you can get that on the cheap, if you like a story modes for like fighting games, like I actually recommend that one, even though the Mortal Kombat one is still, to me, still the bar to beat when it comes to story modes. When it comes to at least like it's like an 8 or 10 hour thing. Like it feels like pretty full meal for like a fighting game, and you could be perfectly satisfied with that. But that was like a really wild one. I haven't finished this one. I did start it, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, against anyone's wish, because I didn't play the original Like a Dragon, but everyone was like raving about this one. And I heard there's like, just give it a shot at Infinite Wealth. It's like
you haven't played Like a Dragon still?
I played briefly, but I haven't beaten it. So I played it briefly, but I really wanted to see what was there in Infinite Wealth, and I'm like, wow, there's so much here, and like the tone is insane. The turn-based combat of that one is like pretty like how they evolved it, where it's like you can still move the characters around but still kind of do the turn-based thing. I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty interesting, and knowing that it's still a big meal because I did the other one first, because there was 2 similar games in size that came out like within the same month, and I reviewed one of those. I was like, okay, I see what this is, and this is actually really interesting. I'm getting close to when I'm out of my blues of the Souls. Like that's my next big game until like we get into review season again. But I definitely wanted to shout out that one. Obviously, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, my 132-hour marathon that it took me to review that one. It's still like still to this day like the new game from 2024 I've enjoyed most from single player. Like, yes, I put that many hours in, and I don't regret having put that much in, because that game really had me. And you have the special edition there, right? Yeah,
it's not even opened yet. I
yet.
haven't even opened it yet, and it has like this extra. I need to. I want to. I just like.
It's a big time commitment. You're still like devouring the meal that is 16. It'll be there. Yeah. It'll be there eventually. It's funny. It's still like if we're just counting new games, not DLC, because obviously DLC rated higher. Rebirth is still the highest rated game of this year. That to me is wild, because it's like I love it, but that to me is like, and it's wild that it's like a 92 meta still, and I'm like,
that is really. I didn't realize it was that high. Yeah, that is really, really good.
Yeah, it's really like that's the highest rated Final Fantasy one. Game in like in years. It rated like 5 points higher than 16, and I really like 16. But the thing is that what's funny is that the conversation about Rebirth is interesting in lieu of those reviews, especially because I've been noticing that this is not a good game for people that have busy lives or are like parents, because it's like such a monumental game. And me, that I made the joke over at Season Game that I have a lot of free time in the world, and I witnessed that with my buddy Paul, my podcast co-host. Whenever his wife was getting close to like giving birth, like he took time off to play, and he was just playing. He wasn't enjoying it as much, playing it just an hour at a time. And then when he had like good chunks to eat, basically with that game, like I saw his tone shift. So keep that in mind. That's something that I really noticed, why that game really works so well for me. And then hearing that some of the guys over at our crossover episode kind of gripe about like the size of it, I was like, I get it. I still love my time with it. And its ending, though complicated, one that I'm itching to talk to more people about other than my podcast, because it's a wild ending. Like what they end up doing is like, it's been one that hasn't left my mind of like how, like what it means for the third part, or like what it means like for Final Fantasy VII as a whole, that I'm like, man, I wish I could have more people. I wish more people had been about it. I understand, like it's a big game.
I never played the original either.
Yeah, so it would be interesting, like the eventuality of me here, me hearing like what your thoughts are, how they handle the ending. Because the thing is that the remake project understands that it's a remake project. That's kind of like the brilliance of the remake project, in my opinion, that it's like it's not just a faithful remake. It's like a fourth wall commentary and like the of what it means to remake something and remaining faithful. So it's like it takes that. That's why like our fellow Rick Hogue, that's why he hated it, because he's like such a he's such a purist, and like some of the things that the game does can be seen as really controversial. And me, I'm like, I want to see them complete what they're doing here with the third game that's coming in 3 or 4 years. But it's still like that's a game that as we're here right now like talking, I had the soundtrack still playing. I've been like, I still watch new streamer reactions of that game. Like I really love Rebirth. I don't regret my review for that one, and I don't care if I'm the only one over at SG that liked it. I stand by my review. Fuck you guys. So like,
just for the audience, I loved Final Fantasy VII remake.
Mm-hmm.
I do not hate this game.
Yeah,
I have never played this game.
Yeah, it's you can see the video. It's like it's still wrapped up.
Yeah, I bought this because I was excited to play it, and I talked about this before, but just in case, briefly, I had this grand idea of buying, which I also bought, so it's right up there, Reunion, Crisis Core, and I was going to do a replay of Rebirth, get the platinum, play Crisis Core, and then play this. And I got like halfway through the remake, and I was just like, hard mode. What am I doing? I don't think it was hard. It wasn't the difficulty.
It's a slog.
Because like I feel like the way that they make it hard is by just making it so you can't use healing items. But at that point in the game, like I have crazy healing spells anyway, so it really wasn't. At least up until where I am, it probably I know it gets way harder. But I just got burnt out. Because I can't remember what I played before that, but I think I was playing a similar kind of third person.
No, you were still going through 16. That's what happened. You were still kind of going through 16. Yeah, you still are.
16 is so awesome and so not awesome.
Yeah. It's a roller coaster. The highs of 16 are so incredibly high that will make you like stand from your chair something how hype it is, and then like it slows, especially later in that game, are so low that it's like I don't like knowing, especially knowing that you're like a parent, you have to wait until at night to play. Like I get why it's taking you so long, especially in that later half, because you have also tasted the immense highs of the Bahamut flag.
That's why I haven't given up, and that's why I haven't uninstalled it, because I know what it can do.
Yeah,
I'm way too like in to give up.
You're
like,
this close to ending.
There's no way. I will say though, when I started coming back to it, because I think I got to it wasn't Bahamut.
Odin, I think.
No, it was what's the rock guy's name again?
Titan. Yeah,
it was right after that fight is when I stopped last year, and I literally just rewatched all the cutscenes up to that point and but yeah, I know, I trust your opinion. You said it's good. I know Colin Moriarty has this as his game of the year too. People say it's kind of more like Yakuza, which that's right up my alley. So on paper I should really like this, and one day I'll play it.
So just so you know, like a mainline playthrough of that game is not 132 hours. It's a 30 to 40 hour game. So it's like that's a game that obviously they packed to the gill, like absolutely packed to the gill with the mini games, with the side content, with the activities you do in the open world. There's like 6 major areas in that game. Like that game is like it's humongous in a way that I think a lot of people didn't really expect it was gonna be, especially with how quick it was made compared to like Remake. And they really made one of the biggest open world games that exist. But also a lot of that side content is like, it's up to you to really engage with that. And I actually do recommend. I had one of my best friends from here that he was like, he misunderstood what he needed to do with the mini games. He thought he needed to complete every mini game first place, like a top like top score to advance. I'm like, don't do that. That's the path to the dark side. You're gonna hate yourself if you keep doing that.
See, that's my fear, because I would do that.
Yes.
Especially if there's a trophy, which there probably is.
Yes, there is.
So I did that with Remake, although there wasn't as many. Like I remember doing like squats or something.
They're back.
I can't remember.
They're back. Yeah, they're back. And now instead of face buttons, they're here in the shoulder buttons. It's harder. It's there's like it's so packed with content, but it's one that I feel like if you start getting tired with that side content, it never disappears. You can always circle back, and you can still get like forward momentum. And I really love the character-driven storytelling of that game. That is like the main plot is it's pretty simple, especially considering where it takes place in the Final Fantasy VII like adaptation they're doing, and a lot of like it's carried by like the kind of like the personal stories of each of your party members. That reminds me a lot of Mass Effect. So those are that's where I feel the strength of that game is. And I love the final chapters of that game. From there's 14 chapter 9 to 14 I really love. So one day you'll get there, and I can't wait to hear like what you think. I know, like, for example, for Steve dropped off of that one, so it's like that's why I was like, oh well, there goes that one.
If I start it and I get any type of like reasonable progress, I will not quit.
Yeah.
What, like, if you think 16 is bad, I bought Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition when it first came out.
That's
and I just stopped playing it today. Like, I'm still chipping away at it, and I don't like, okay, have you played that game?
Yeah, I didn't finish it. Yeah.
How far did you get?
30 hours in, I think, if I remember.
Okay, so you probably haven't got to it yet, but that game, the combat is interesting but poorly designed, because like, I won't get too far into the weeds, but like, it's all about positioning. You have to attack from the side or the back, but you can't taunt. You can't control your party members who have to taunt, and you're constantly running around trying to get the enemy not to hit you. And it's very like, there's good ideas, poor implementation. Story is not that interesting, and I think I put close to 20-30 hours in, and I was like, I can't throw that time away. I had to finish this. And randomly at like hour 40 or something like that, this like revelation happens in the story, and
you're back in.
It is so good. The story just became amazing. And if I gave up on the game, which I probably should have, but I didn't, I wouldn't have gotten that. So there is some, I mean, I don't know. I still feel like
it's the danger of the RPGs, especially when because they're such odysseys most of the time that it feels like,
I don't play a lot of JRPGs, probably for that reason.
It's like they really can be time commitments, but then like they hit you with like the good stuff like so late that then that's like, you know how like the lasting taste can be like the thing you remember the most. Is like that's what happened to me with 16 when I reviewed it, because it was like I remember the despair I felt after the Bahamut battle for like so long, and then like it just hits you with highs that then you're like, oh, okay.
Wasn't there a game like semi recently that you had the opposite effect with, like you liked it until the end or something like that?
I'm trying to remember which one. Was it Hellblade? No, because I think Hellblade was like I had just played the first one, and Hellblade was like I preferred the first one, but I'm like
no, I think it was
I'm trying to remember which other one. Because I know opposite was Stellar Blade, because I was not liking it at first, and then the second half saved it for me. But I think I'm trying to remember which one was it that
I have to look at your Open Critic now.
Look,
I don't remember. I do remember you having that conversation where it was something about the ending or the last boss. Maybe it was Elden Ring.
No, Skull and Bones. It was like because I played that thing solo when I wasn't meant to be, and I was like ranting like a maniac in our chat because I was like freaking hating it. I think it was that, like, from the reviews that I made. So, but you can check them out. Read the ones that I.
I have to find you by like looking at a game that you reviewed and looking through all the reviews and trying to find it. So it might take a while, but I feel like I feel like you were talking about a game where you liked it, but the ending left a bad taste in your mouth, so you couldn't. You were struggling to give it the score that you were thinking about giving it.
Crap, which one was it? Holy.
I'm not like wrong. Like, you remember saying something.
I remember
like that.
saying that, and I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was like a game that I ended up not reviewing in the end, or we were kind of just chatting.
It might have been something that you didn't even review too, which doesn't help me.
Was it Paper Mario? I'm trying
to.
No,
you didn't finish that, did you?
Yeah, I didn't finish that one. So, but it definitely lost me. Holy crap! Like, I usually have a good memory, and I remember having that conversation. I was like, "Holy crap! Which one was it? Which one was it? Which one was it?" Or no, it wasn't Forspoken, because I gave that a 7. Was Modern Warfare? I gave Modern Warfare 3 a 5 because I remember like being like.
I feel like it was more recent than that, though. It could be.
Yeah, I'm blanking.
I'll keep looking in the background, and if I figure it out, I'll let you know.
Yeah, eventually we'll get that eureka moment. Was it Dragon's Dogma 2 maybe? Because I know that was like a game that because that's a game I dropped off from. because I thought I remember being like, maybe I think I'm gonna review that one, because it was just I had just finished Rebirth and I was like, I may jump in that one. I was like, man, I was like, this game's not clicking. I know Ains wasn't liking it either. Which obviously, like, yeah, it's like Dragon's Dogma 2 right now is my biggest disappointment of the year, in that I was hyped, or like I bought the hype going into that one. I don't know if you remember that a lot of people are hyping it as the next Elden Ring, and then I played it and I was like, no. And now playing Shadow of the Earth 3 recently, I'm like, yeah, it's like anyone that tried to say that Dragon's Dogma 2 was like even remotely of that caliber, there's cool things in it, but that game is just friction. Like, it's absolute friction. And I feel it's probably Hellblade 2, the one that I think it was Hellblade 2 for me, because I was
Maybe.
like, I ended opposite of you, because you liked it. I think you gave it you were like at an 8 for that. Ains gave it a 9. I was like, yeah,
it wasn't a game you reviewed. I just looked at all of them. It wasn't any of these games.
Yeah,
but
I think
one thing that I think is kind of, I've never gotten to a game. It's not that I wasn't allowed to or anything, but I've never given a 10 yet on SG, and you have 2.
Yeah, Zelda and Alan Wake 2.
I think that's probably like 30% of all 10s on season gaming.
I know, but that's the thing, like, because we mentioned it at the crossover. Like, I wasn't too huge in Breath of the Wild, but Tears of the Kingdom really impressed me.
Oh, like, I think those 10s are. I haven't played Alan Wake yet, but I think those 10s are probably justified.
Yeah,
I'm not
definitely. Definitely. I can't wait for you to play when you get the physical edition with everything.
Oh, I can't wait too.
Because it was
I'm having second thoughts though on which console to get it for.
I would say, like, if it's on, if it's physically, I would recommend the Xbox version because it's more stable. I read in Digital Foundry, so
it's a next gen only game, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it's a next gen only. So
Xbox physicals suck when it's cross gen.
Oh yeah, because of the way
they put the regular version, the Xbox One version on, and you have to download the Series X version. One thing to circle back slightly, there was a free play weekend for Dragon's Dogma 2, and I played it for probably 10 minutes.
Yeah,
the intro is so boring. I didn't care at all about what was happening. I didn't even fight anything. I just was like walking for 10 minutes.
Yeah, you're like in this like a slave place where you're kind of like walking around moving boulders and all that.
Yeah, I was just like, this
bad first impression.
Yeah, I will admit I wasn't in the right mood to play it, and if the circumstances were different, I probably would have at least committed more time to it, and maybe I would have clicked more. But like that game, there's the next Elden Ring, no.
Yeah, and I feel that's why, like, it's disappointed that I feel like I bought the hype too much, and that's kind of like how a lot of people were feeling like heading into that one. But I feel like it's been the game that time hasn't been kind, like, as people get more removed from it, and I just stopped caring. I really was gonna try to review that one. That was like that and Paper Mario, the 2 games that got away from me, that I said that if I finish I may do a review, but kind of like our policy, we don't get code, we don't do. So yeah.
Well, you can review games that you don't get codes. A lot of mine are, because I do a lot of Nintendo stuff and they don't send us anything.
Oh yes. Yeah, but we have to finish them, so that's kind of like the thing. Like, we can say like we want to review it, like if we don't get codes where there's no like an obligation for us to like post the review, like if we don't fit, because we have to finish them for our son. So this year I've already have two of those games that I'm like, I committed and I'm like, oh well. But but definitely, like, if we get caught, like, I'm there, like, I went through it, like I had to like find my impulses, and I still had 132 hours on Rio because we got code for that, obviously at launch, but we did get it. So yeah, but I still really like that one. And shout out to Stellar Blade, also a game that at first I was iffy starting, and then the second half of that game was really amazing. And to me, it was like, that was an interesting time because that's when I got my vertigo. Yeah, I don't know if you remember that. Like I got hit with vertigo when I was playing. Like, I was like, why the frick did that happen to me? Like, I didn't do anything different in my life, and suddenly I'm like suffering vertigo. And getting to finish that game like with the assist modes, because it was like, it can be a flashy game to kind of like, I was getting dizzy fast, but I was like, I'm gonna put the assist on, and I put that in my review. I was like, this is actually an interesting way to experience one of these games with like the 8s, and I'm good now, and I would love to like replay it. But I was like, that's one that I would say, like, if you wait for a sale, like, I feel like the second half of that game is worth experiencing. And I sent you some screenshots.
Yeah, that is what I'm waiting for. I might still just get it eventually. But I had it at the top of my list, my Amazon list for Father's Day, but it didn't work out. I got a gift card and then ended up using the gift card to buy this monitor. But Yeah, I do want to play that. I did play the trial, I think, which was like 2 hours, or it was maybe like
it was the entire beginning of the game, and it
there was
transfers.
a boss on the top of a parking garage. I've played up to that, and I thought it was great. Like I thought it was better than I expected, because like we talked about this before, but there's a lot of games that come out of like from like random developers that just come out of nowhere, that are like trying to Souls games, and I kind of alluded to that at the end of the Elden Ring talk, that we're going to start seeing clones of Elden Ring in the next like 3 years, because they've all started being developed after Elden Ring was so successful. That's kind of how it works. So it'll be interesting to see what comes from that. But yeah, I do think it is very good. Originally, I had put Rise of the Ronin above it in terms of my hype levels, or what game I would get first. But if someone had handed me one or the other, I would take Stellar Blade.
Yeah. Rise of the Ronin is one that I still have installed. I'm kind of like playing. It's kind of like it's a junk food game, how I call it. It's like the combats are really good. The production like quality kind of, but the production like value kind of sucks. Like it looks kind of old, but it's still pretty fun to play. Like like especially if you play Ninja Gaiden, it's like so close to Ninja Gaiden in like an open world setting that I'm like, okay, it's like I was a big Ninja Gaiden fan, especially Black. So I was like, okay, I'm getting a little bit of those feelings. The rest of the game is very vanilla, so it's like I enjoy it in bursts, then I put it up, but it's still there. It's like kind of like a good junk food. Though Shadows is coming soon, and I'm like, I'm a big Assassin's Creed fan, obviously. So I was like, should I save my samurai open world for that one, even though I have this one? So, but yeah, I want to Shadow that. That's a good like. You know how we did the best sevens this year, like last year for our rewards.
Yeah, I can't remember what I put, but yeah.
Yeah, I put Immortals of Avium last year. I think I would put that one there. So for best 7, if we end up doing that again. And if DLC were Game of the Year, the fact that we got both the Final Shape and Shadow of the Erdtree back to back in June was pretty spectacular. Like I have such, even though we still haven't done the raid, we're still trying to plan on doing the raid in the clan that you joined. We've been talking about maybe doing it this week, but we'll see. But
you haven't done it yet?
Yeah, we haven't done it yet. Like I just I got sucked into Elden Ring. Like the week we're gonna do the raid. So
I'll probably be down. Yeah, I'll probably be down.
Yeah, shout out to an amazing ending for the 10-year saga that was Destiny 2, and hoping that still good. Yeah, like there's still good things are coming for Destiny. And then shout out to Erdtree. You can hear us gush about Erdtree in that crossover episode over at Season Gaming. So yeah, it was like I feel 2024, everyone that says that it's a dry year of games, and I'm like, how? There's so much.
There's so much.
Like and so many unique games too.
And like the rush hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah.
Like that's starting like next month, I think. Or
yeah, we have to get it. We have to get into like some fights to see who's gonna review what now. Like what's coming. Like
I want at least one of the 10 games there is. I don't know which one it will be. But give me one, man.
Yeah,
come on.
I feel you will get about. I'm 100% sure you'll get it.
I don't think I can do Assassin's. I don't think I have enough physical time. If it's anything like Valhalla, hopefully. It's a little bit slimmer than Valhalla.
Supposedly. It's going to be Origin size, which was good size, still big.
Yeah. So. That was the last one I completely finished, was Origins, including DLC.
I finished all of them. I finished Valhalla 155 hours on an OCD run.
Do you know what I did finish, though, and loved? This is like, we're going on tangents, but it's semi-related. Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Oh yeah, that's one that I still have installed.
Loved that game. I bought it I beat it on Xbox and immediately bought it on PS5. It is the best. I mean, Ubisoft has really been crushing it lately, but up until that point, 2020, they had kind of been floundering a little bit, and even a bit after that, they still were. That was like a very big bright spot for them, and it's really sad that I don't think that franchise is going anywhere.
Yeah, they canceled the sequel that was supposed to be like in Hawaii, kind of like taken to the midst of like the Pacific Islands and all that, which was so sad.
Yeah.
Because
did you see the deal for it?
I actually bought the DLC. I just haven't played it. I have it installed. That's like, I'll get to you. It's one of my I'll get to you, because I did Valhalla first. So because I was a big Assassin's Creed fan, but I was not expecting how big that game was gonna be. I was like, I need a little break from Ubisoft a little bit when I did it. So, but I know Immortals is the best game of the 3 that they released then, which was Watch Dogs, Valhalla, and Immortals. So.
But it was, yeah, definitely fated to be, because like the reason why I got it, I didn't actually have any interest in it, or at least very little interest in it. But I wanted like a 60 frames per second big open world game to try on next gen consoles. And I think that game came out in like October, and like by end of November, it was like $29.99.
Actually, December. It actually launched in December 3rd, 2020.
Okay, and I bought it before Christmas, so that would have been 2 weeks after it came out. It was already discounted heavily, and so I bought it. And then it has Breath of the Wild elements in terms of the agency you have in terms of how you will solve things, because it's a sandbox. So good. Story is like a Disney cartoon.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey superpower like UI also. It's straight up from Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Also.
Yeah, I think it was the same group.
Same developer. And Shadows is the developer of Immortals also. So
okay, that's cool. That's really, really good to know. But yeah, in Immortals DLC, at least one of them, it's like you're a totally different character playing as a totally different pantheon. It's like Chinese mythology.
Oh, really? Okay.
And there's also I think the other DLC, it's like a totally different perspective. I don't know actually if you're the same character in this one too, but it's like I think a top-down. It's like a different style game, and then there's one that's more of the same. But the DLC was great.
I think you probably sold me to get into it now, especially where we are right now in the year.
If you just pop it into, I say this about every game, but I definitely recommend it. Up the difficulty. It really forces you to use the mechanics. The fighting mechanics are actually pretty good. But just do a couple of the dungeons and start to solve, like, eventually you'll get to a puzzle where you'll be like, I don't know. I can't like figure this out. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab a shit ton of rocks and trees and just make a big tower to climb so I don't have to solve the puzzle. And I can just climb over the puzzle and get to the answer. And then you're like, I'm a fucking genius. Yes. Fuck your puzzle. I just cut down 8 trees, brought them across a field, and made a makeshift ramp. And I didn't have to solve your stupid puzzle, Ubisoft. And the game lets you do that. And it's so fun.
And that's what made Tears of the Kingdom so good, being able to do that too.
Yeah, exactly. And this was before then. This was like kind of like closer to Breath of the Wild, but it definitely was, again, another game that was heavily inspired by that. Breath of the Wild, you might not like it. It might not have the most stuff, the most densely populated world, but it was a very, very, very influential game.
Yeah.
And
no one can deny it. Like no one
stuff like Elden Ring is a spawn of that. They're totally different games, but like elements of Breath of the Wild are in Elden Ring. Yeah. And now we're gonna have elements of Elden Ring in other games soon.
Yeah, and I can't wait. And I love that. Then, like, when I mentioned like Stellar Blade, the thing that I love the most about that one is that even though it's clear you can see the Souls inspirations, it tries to occupy a middle ground that feels like a Souls-like, but also kind of plays like a character action-based game. So it's like it occupies kind of like the middle spot that at least gives it something unique. So it's not just like playing Lies of P that is like clearly a Bloodborne, like Spawn, or Lords of the Fallen that is clearly a spawn of Dark Souls, something like that. It's like, I'm glad that you can see the inspirations, but at least some devs will like find something in the middle. So you definitely shout out to Stellar Blade, and shout out to all the many other games that are coming for the rest of the year, but we're not gonna do most anticipated. I feel we can save that for any other episode. So you, like, you're basically, if the year would end today, like, you would say Helldivers is your game of the year, right? So today,
it's really close race. I think the thing that I think pushes it slightly above the rest is just the impact it had when it landed in terms of like the community that formed from the result of that impact, and just kind of the meta kind of storytelling aspect of it that I don't think it's definitely not in the review at all. I think I mean, not to my own horn, I think I did mention it a little bit in my review.
Yeah, it's just that more happened after you published. That's what was wild.
But it grew and grew and grew to a point where I think it's one of the coolest parts of the game. Before, it was just kind of a funny thing. People on Reddit were saying funny stuff, but it is I haven't seen that before. This isn't stories that are told, that the developers wrote to be told to us. These are stories that the community made and told and shared. It's kind of like EVE Online a little bit, in terms of how that organically happens, the water cooler stuff, and that kind of like grows, and then on top of that, it's just a really solid game. And although there hasn't been like a major content drop, they have steadily been constantly adding stuff to it, and the way that they add stuff to it is hilarious. I remember when they added the I can't remember what they're called.
The mechs? Was it like the mechs? Do you remember that?
They added like this walking fortress that was like really funny, but I think the first instance of them just adding stuff was when they added the flying Tyranids, and everyone's like, what, there's flying Tyranids, what's going on? And then the developer, because they would only put it in a like
in
couple people
places.
couple matches of like, there's millions of matches happening, and they would just drop this new enemy that flies and has a nest that you have to kill, new mechanics, and they would drop it in like a couple people's games and just let those people freak out and then share it and then deny it like it didn't happen. They're like, we don't know anything about flying bugs, what are you talking about? And then like a week later it's for everybody.
It was
and stuff like that is so good.
Meta narrative done so well, like breaking the fourth wall, making you feel like you exist there in a easy to update in a way, kind of like the way how they were doing it. It was showing us a future of like how you could do like a fun live service thing that doesn't fall into the trappings that we've seen like live service kind of like fall into, which is like, that's why like to me like the most fun I had with a game this year has been Rebirth. But I'm like, I would put my hat on new game of 2024 that could be game of the year. I would actually like be like I would put my support over Helldivers too. Like if that's kind of like where kind of is leaning, like leaning my personal bias of Rebirth aside, is like we saw the impact. It's like that thing created something, and it set kind of like a tone for this year where a lot of like unlikely successes are kind of coming from, like, which Balatro kind of fits into that too. That's what I've loved the most about 2024. 2023 all-timer year, but it was like everything was safe, you know, because it was like franchises all got their sequels, and that's amazing for us that love their franchises. But it's like that doesn't discount 2024 and the smaller stuff. So can't wait to see like where we land at the end of the year whenever we do it over SG.
Wow. If everything goes according to or how I think it will, I don't anticipate Helldivers. No offense, I don't anticipate that being my game of the year. I have a lot of awesome games I haven't played yet that have already come out, and then there's so much that's coming. Which, I mean, I won't get to play all of it, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, dude, it's so good. Yeah, especially for expansions.
Yes, I know. But what's so funny is that I've been like saying, my favorite thing has been Rebirth, but all year I've been like waiting for the game to be like, I want something to beat this, because I usually don't like my most anticipated game going into a year to be the game of the year. You know what I mean? Because like I was already anticipating it. I love when the surprises come. I'm waiting for that, for the at least like in the single player area, and maybe that'll happen later this year. Who knows? So, so real quick, I want to read some like quick headlines of things that happened like in between like last week and this week that I thought would be funny to discuss with you, especially with your big because you're more like definitely you love Xbox a lot. And today, of course, and this week, of course, some say it was a stepping on the rake, and I'm like, not much of a step on the rake. It's just like, why do you have to make this so confusing? But it's like obviously Xbox Gamepass is getting a price increase, and so that means that the $9.99 tier is jumping up to $14.99, and then Game Pass Ultimate is gonna be $19.99. The big difference is that the base tier that's now called Standard is removing the day one games thing. So it's now just gonna be like it's similar to the PlayStation Extra tier, where it's like a backlog, a back catalog of the games that you have access to. And then Game Pass Ultimate remains the thing that if you want to get day one games, now it's gonna be in that tier. And the fact that they have they're gonna grandfather you in here, you're gonna remain at $10.99 if you were already a subscriber. If you're a new subscriber, you're fucked. The PC Game Pass one, there's like two versions, but it's like cheaper than Game Pass Ultimate. That one has like all games in, and I'm like, there's like flow charts, and I'm like, why do you guys have to make this so damn complicated? On top of the fact that you already have to like face the ire of like, of course, no one's gonna like a price hike. I certainly didn't when like PlayStation did it last year, so I was like, it kind of sucks. But what do you think of the new prices?
The prices, the dollar amount doesn't really bother me, because if we are getting so much from Game Pass, like they haven't even really dropped their first party stuff yet this year, and we've already gotten like a ton of great stuff. Like, what was it? Still Wakes the Deep just came out. Like these are that, like, everybody focuses on the first party stuff, which makes sense. I understand, but like, and I see a lot of people be like, oh, if you buy like 2 or 3 AAA games, like that's the cost of Game Pass. But like what people don't talk about is
the breadth.
You get and this is Canadian dollars, by the way, you get like a $30-$40 game that's like 3 to 5 hours long or whatever Still Wakes the Deep is. I'm in the middle of it. I think it's actually pretty cool. That you just get like 12 of those a year. That's like hundreds of dollars on top of the other stuff. Plus, like the difference between Ultimate and the other one, like you get so much with Ultimate with your membership, your streaming, and you get different discounts in the store and all kinds of like. I don't think the price is outlandish because you're getting so much. You're getting Call of Duty this year. This year alone, what is it? Call of Duty, Avowed, Indiana Jones,
Hellblade 2 already.
Hellblade 2, Age of Mythology. I don't think you get Shattered Space, right? I think you have to pay for that.
Yeah, you don't get to pay. You don't get it free. But if you bought the early access, you get it. That's what I did. The early access.
Yeah, I have it. I bought the Steelbook. I bought the Shattered now. But yeah, it's not part of Game Pass. But still, you get so much. Like once Call of Duty was added, you know this was coming. The problem I have is kind of what you were talking about, which is the communication. I don't understand because like I'm just a guy, right? And I can immediately point out the problems with this, how this is being messaged. If I am a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, which I would assume most of the people that are getting this message or talking about it right now probably are, nothing really changes. I pay an extra $3 or $4, whatever. But if I'm not, like I don't know what's happened. Okay, I get some games. What games? I don't know. I get my gold membership. That's cool. I don't get games day one. When do I get them? When do they come? What's the cadence? And I think the reason why they didn't talk about this is because they don't know. They said, I think somebody said something about sometimes it will be 6 months, sometimes it will be a year, sometimes it might be more.
Yes, just Corbin said it.
That's stupid. I don't think this is a good idea because it's so, you are just so unsure of yourself. I think they should just be like, you either have Game Pass or you don't have Game Pass. There shouldn't be tiers to it. Netflix, it's easier because you can just say this tier has ads. All the content is the same, but you have ads. It's very easy to tell if you do or do not have ads, and you don't have to worry about which shows I can or cannot watch. With Game Pass, I think you just should have it or not. You could take away stuff like you could take away access to the PC Game Pass. You could take away access to xCloud. Like those are things that are easy to identify that you have or you don't have. But when you start getting into like, okay, well, what games do I have? Okay, this new game's on Ultimate. When does it come to my platform? If history is tells us anything, you probably won't know when it's coming until it gets there. Just like you don't know what games are going to go to PS5 and what ones aren't, or when they are, or when they like. It's just like I don't know for how much money they get paid to do this and how much time they've spent learning this part of the business, the people that run the marketing and stuff like that. I don't know how this happens.
Yeah, it's so wild that keeps always happening to them. Like, why is marketing so hard for Xbox? Like, it didn't used to be this bad for them. Like,
I think it's just they're too big. There's the meeting that happened where they decided that they want to separate, like change this the way that Game Pass is structured in terms of the not day one for this tier, but for this tier, that was probably a meeting with people that are not in the meeting with the other people saying the price needs to get raised. And there's probably another group of people that has to write the press release from data from each of these people who are not talking to each other. And it's just this huge company and like,
yeah, it's just so messy. It's just so messy. And the worst part is that how fun it is always with Xbox. They're riding great momentum now. Step in the ring, whatever it is. It always feels like they're stepping on them inadvertently or advertently. Like even though, like, I know a lot of people are like, it's like they're raising the price is not so bad, especially when you consider that Sony recently also did this. So it's not like they're like the only ones doing it. It's just that then like why didn't it just stop there? Why did he just with that and then having to have this convoluted flow chart and then on top of that, hearing that news of like they don't know the cadence of when the first party, what they're aiming, even though we know they want to hit like every quarter, but they don't know when. And obviously, I get it. Gaming is too volatile to really know. To me, the worst part is that by raising that price and keeping that kind of like uncertainty of when you're getting stuff, this makes Game Pass no longer a monthly thing for me. This whenever this takes into, because I think like because I'm already a subscriber, I have until September before that like it kicks in into the new price. I'm like, now I have to really wait for the games that I'm really, really interested in before I like resubscribe. I didn't mind keeping it like going, like especially because I'm co-sharing it with my podcast co-host, so we paid half. But then when we were really thinking, I was like, I just mainly play more on PlayStation. If like Xbox was like my main system, I would like because if that's where I was doing most of my game, I was like, yeah, cool. But since it's my secondary one, I'm like, yeah, now I'm just gonna wait for the solid release dates, and I'm gonna pay when the game gets here. That's at least that's kind of how I see it. And I know some people are saying that for some people they feel like they've been priced out now. Like they can justify $20, even though when you really think about it, like what you're getting, I'm gonna read you some of the games that are coming next week, because like a lot of those are on games like that also technically pays itself. Though at the same time, if you're not interested in those games, I also get how the perceived value is different person to person. That's like the only thing.
Yeah. You can create like a customer that like specific customer it's not going to work for. Mm-hmm. Like if you only play the first party games and you only play the AAA games that come from Xbox, then yeah, okay, that makes sense to just subscribe when those games come out. Mm-hmm. And then it's up to Microsoft to kind of spread those releases out so that you're subscribed for them optimally for the most amount of months. I think though that unless you are I'm trying to think of the nicest way to say this. There's so many games on Game Pass, not just what's there now, which is an immense amount of games, but every month there's stuff that comes that's awesome, is worth playing and is an awesome game. And if you can't find $20 worth of games to play each month, I'm very suspicious of this. Yeah. I think what's probably happening, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but what I think what's happening with you is it's not that there isn't enough games on there that you think are good games or that you think like are worth the price. It's just that there's so many games in general that the games that the time that you have is what the problem is to play games, not necessarily like the games themselves. So if you pay for Game Pass this month and there's not a big like mega blockbuster first party game that drops that you have to drop everything and play, you have all these games that you want to play on PlayStation that you might not put those down to go play Still Wakes the Deep or to go play Neon White or to go play like whatever else comes to Game Pass, right?
Flintlock, which I'm definitely gonna play.
Yeah. And a game like Flintlock, I mean, I think Flintlock, if I'm not mistaken, is like $60 here, $70 here. So it's probably like 60.
I'm playing at an Xbox. I'm totally playing because I'm interested.
So there's probably going to be like 4 or 5 Flintlocks that come out on Game Pass this year. And that's the year subscription right there. There's probably going to be like 5 to 10 indie games that are like $20-ish each that come out every year. That's the subscription. And then you're going to have stuff like Call of Duty, Indiana Jones, Avowed, Ara, Age of Mythology, stuff like that comes out next year. Is what Fable, Doom, another Call of Duty probably, Perfect Dark, I think did it say?
That one didn't have the window, but I think like it's just speculative. We think that may be 2026. That was like the first out one, but
E-Day is a potential for that as a game as well. I think I might already said Fable, but like there's enough there, and that's without knowing the stuff that's just going to show up. Stalker 2 is also another one that's coming. They went to Game Pass. Replace is still supposed to come this year, coming to Game Pass. I don't think it's not worth it. Now everybody has different budgets and stuff like that, so that is what it is. But yeah, I think I would push back on in this specific instance, because they definitely step on rakes, but I don't think that this is necessarily a step on a rake. I think everybody either is already subscribed to one of the tiers. They either have Game Pass or they don't, which is kind of what I was alluding to. I think the people that are getting these emails and reading into it and being confused, I think those people are just the people that are super, super engaged with like the gaming zeitgeist, which represents a very small amount of people. I don't think that this is as disruptive to Xbox as in terms of consumer perception as releasing games on PlayStation and the cloudiness that came with that. Not that I'm not going to open that bucket of worms, but I don't necessarily think that was the end of the world. But this year, I think if you have Game Pass, chances are you probably have Ultimate. And yes, it sucks that the price is going up, but the quality and the amount of games is also going up. There's like 7 first party games I think this year, which is like 5 more than last year or something like that. So it's pretty crazy. And if you don't have Game Pass Ultimate right now and you're on Game Pass Core, you already don't have access to games day one. You just have Xbox Live essentially, and nothing is really changing except the price is going up slightly. If you have Game Pass PC, and you only play on PC and you don't have Ultimate, you don't have an Xbox, nothing really changes for you, the price just goes up a little bit. But so does the content you have access to. So I don't know.
They're gonna get really good content. It's just that more like it sucks that there was extra confusion added with how they presented it when it was just a simple, hey, we're raising the price, or kind of like what them trying to introduce the new standard tier by trying to reshuffle things around. It's just unnecessarily obtuse communication that they really didn't need.
It should have been an Xbox Wire post that was very clearly written. This was not that. This was I don't know if you know the source of this. It's literally an email that some people got. I never even got one.
Exactly.
So like, how does that happen? It's almost like it was like a canary in the coal mine to see like how this would go over, which is a dumb. Anyway.
Yeah, I know. Again, it's like it's the unfortunate reality of like Xbox being in the position they are, that everything feels like a step, like easy rake that you shouldn't step on, even if the news itself is not as bad as many people want to make it seem like. Because here's what's so funny, like apparently there, because I don't know if there's a year of Game Pass Ultimate right now until now, and now it's gonna be $75 for an entire year of Game Pass Ultimate. You know how much PlayStation Plus Essential 1 year is? $80.
See, my PlayStation Plus is up in like a week, and I'm questioning whether I should resubscribe to it or not, because I don't know if I'm getting, because if for me it's 100 and I have premium, it's 190. It's 190 bucks,
and that's 160. The price increase of that, like I didn't pay for the year anymore. I'm paying just month to month. Until a sale, because I'm like, 160 for a year. It's like brutal. Like it's brutal.
I want to play Concord, which I think I need it for.
Yeah, but you can go down to Essential. You can go down to Essential.
Yeah, but it's so annoying.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish there was just, I don't know, like the PlayStation like remasters that kind of coming out. I've been interested in them, and I think that's cool, and I've downloaded them all, but I don't think I've played any of them. The games that PlayStation releases, I buy when they come out. So them adding those to the service doesn't really move the needle for me. When
and they can be bought a la carte for $5, like Sly Cooper, Clone Wars, and all of those that added, they have purchase options, so
which would be cheaper. The good, like the AAA games that come to that service, I typically already have in Game Pass.
Yeah.
There's a lot of recycling that happens there. I think the best part of that subscription is the occasional like AA indie that launches into it, like Tales of Kinsara or Dave the Diver, those type of things, Stray, stuff like that. That's where it is worth it. But that is there is a mountain, there is a huge gap from my perspective, from a value perspective, like proposition between Game Pass Ultimate and PS Plus, whatever.
It's not even close, especially like with Ultimate. They had the day one first party, they always will give it an edge. And to me, like extra and the extra and premium tiers are more worth it for newer PS5 owners. Like I recommended that to like recent buyers, and it's a treasure trove. Like the backlog is great for people that have just bought their expensive console and want a bunch of games to play without spending much. That's the one area that service works. But for us that we get everything, it's not worth as much. So, and also, and again, because like, I feel like you're still kind of wavering between like you maining on Xbox and PlayStation also, and that also kind of determine like I feel like the ecosystem you spend more time on is the one that you will lean more towards keeping like a monthly subscription. And that's
I'm a little bit weird though with that. Like I will say I definitely am a main on Xbox, but it's not like I play on Xbox and then play the exclusives that come to the other platforms.
Yeah, you play third-party stuff on PlayStation also, so it's like
it's like 40%, 30%, 30%. It's pretty close to being even, but there is definitely an edge for Xbox, so that's why I always carried all the subscriptions. I also subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online Plus with expansion pass or whatever that.
I got I got my $50 charge like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oh, I forgot it was coming. Ooh, that hurt.
I use that the least. By far. I don't think I think I played Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga for like 5 hours. I think that's the most I've gotten out of it. So
yeah, it's like it's just interesting. To me, it was funny. Like when I saw that news, it made me like reconsider, being like, okay, most of my games, especially a lot of the ones that I bought, are actually on PlayStation. That's why I was like, I'll keep my subscription still for the next 3 months because there's a lot coming for Xbox. But then after that, it's like those announcements they make like at the beginning of the month of like coming, that will always keep determining of like, okay, I'll do it this month. I mean that if I have mild to at least above mild interest, that's what I'll keep it. But if it's like if I don't see any interest, we're gonna be like, okay, this month I'm cutting. Let's see for the next batch. Okay. For first party, I'm always gonna be in. I'm always gonna because that's like easy way for to try that. But it's like I can imagine a lot of people are feeling that just based on like their use. If you're a main on Xbox, I don't feel this is like a problem, not much of a problem. You're still getting a lot. So
no, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and especially with that 20 tier, like you get to play Xbox everywhere with a Fire Stick TV in an ad that says you don't need an Xbox to play Xbox.
So yeah, like, again, a really poor choice of words. Definitely that catchphrase was made by somebody who is not like involved in the day-to-day at Xbox. It was not Phil Spencer that probably made that, or Sarah Bond or Matt Booty. It was probably a wholly different department that isn't anyway.
I feel bad that the Eye of Sauron is all over them because you can clearly feel the Civil War like happen in front of our very eyes. And it's really unfortunate because like when we see that amazing showcase we saw, it's like, gosh, why did the Eye of Sauron have to come out now when now everything like the X are hatching and like it's like all these contradictions are gonna keep happening. To be fair with that, like I saw a bunch of impressions of people playing Xbox games through the Fire Stick thing, and apparently people were pretty impressed with it. I'm like, that's cool that the tech is there. Like I still don't want to like. I fear like what that means for like the console business, even though they're like still committing to that. It's like, but those are kind of like the small dominoes that
Fire Sticks are very popular. Like I
have one.
Yeah, for my job, like I pretty much like I build VOD apps for emerging platforms like TV OSs and Fire Sticks, and Fire Sticks there's so many Fire Sticks in people's houses, and there's so many Rokus in people's houses. If they can get Roku next, although I don't know if Roku has a way to connect a controller to it. I don't think they have like Bluetooth like that, but they could easily make something. And if Fire TV is their biggest competitor, so they're definitely going to at some point. But yeah, like it sucks that it's messaged that way, but it is also a very good opportunity for Xbox to do this. Because if you put yourself in the position of a kid whose family like has, I think it's pretty realistic to say a family could have a Netflix subscription or something that maybe they share with other family members, and they have like a pretty cheap TV and they have a Fire Stick.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot easier of a sell to get that parent to go to Facebook Marketplace or something and buy a controller, and then even if it's just using a free trial or subscribing for 1 month here, 1 month there, maybe their birthday. Like I'm talking about people who are very budget conscious. That's still people that can get into the ecosystem. And then when they get enough money to buy a console for their kid, like what console is their kid going to pick? The console where they have cloud saves and all this stuff in Fortnite or whatever the case. Like those are, because Phil Spencer said it on Kind of Funny. Like there isn't like this ever growing ocean of players that they just have to try and earn or find and convince to buy a console. Like there's a pool of gamers that are core console gamers, and they all have consoles, and some of them have PlayStation, some of them have Xboxes, some of them have Switches, and that pie chart does move slightly. It fluctuates based on like hardware or different software, but it doesn't really grow, and it doesn't fluctuate that much. So in order to kind of grow the subscription service, they need to find new customers. They need to go to a different pool. And those other pools are PC and mobile and streaming.
Yeah.
And they're in all of those pools more so than anybody. And that's their path to grow the subscribers.
And the young generation that refuses to pay for games. Like this younger generation that have gotten so accustomed to the Robloxes that don't spend a single dime into games. And I feel like a Fire Stick... I feel like now when you think about it, the new price of Xbox Gamepass Ultimate that includes cloud gaming, when you think about it from the Fire Stick perspective, you can then kind of see like where that pricing was kind of made as a way to give something incredible value for someone that doesn't have to spend the $500 to now $600 on the console for something that works pretty good for people that don't care about lag. And people say that the lag is like still there, but like for people who are casuals will be like good enough. It's like you can kind of start piecing together where those prices kind of come from. That when you're a console user, you're like, you feel like, oh, this kind of sucks. But then like in the bigger picture of them really still wanted to get everywhere, that's kind of the Satya Nadella thing. It's like now that pricing kind of makes sense in a way. And I mean, yes, that's just the future. It's like it's icky for us that are more traditional, that you like the console and you want those games to exist, but it's like that's the future where we are now. And it's like and at the very least, like they got a good head start there. Like even with Sony having started first with when they bought Gaikai. So, and then a final headline, and this was interesting because you're the one that pointed this to me today. The Nintendo released a creepy teaser trailer for a mystery M-rated Switch game. That was like the weirdest thing to see teased like from an official Nintendo account. From there, like a horror game that looked very Silent Hill-ish, even though it's not quite Silent Hill. It's supposed to be a new game, and the rumors are this is the Bloober Team game that they had said that it was a developer called Project M. They didn't quite specify what it was, but
yeah, I was blown away. I would have never have guessed that in a million years that there would be a random Nintendo game tease that is not only a not shown at a showcase or direct, but also is an M-rated horror game.
Yeah,
that is very strange to me. I have seen the rumors about the Bloober Team thing. Mm-hmm. This is like, it could be that 100%. I don't have inside information, but when they announced that project that they're working on with Nintendo, they did show like concept art. Mm-hmm. And from my perspective anyway, the art that Nintendo has in their teaser and that like don't look like they're from the same game. Mm-hmm. But like obviously that stuff could change, or it could be just from the same game and just looks totally different. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what it is. Obviously nobody really knows what it is. It's funny. I shared this in my work Slack in the video game channel, and in the Season Gaming Discord, and a lot of the responses are like, "Oh, Bloober Team, oh, hype ruined." There is this weird hate for Bloober Team. Mm-hmm. We talked about it at my work, and I talked about it with a guy that I work with that's like very, very smart and does a lot about video games, and he made a lot of great points. And I think that what happens with Bloober Team, I know we're on a tangent here talking about Bloober Team, but and I'm also, for the record, audience, it's like 2 a.m. so I'm also like, I'm also drowsy right now. I don't even know if I'm making sense, but anyway,
you are.
Bloober Team, they're a company that consistently makes good games. Mm-hmm. And I'm using the word good like from the IGN scale of good.
In the 7 out of 10, yeah.
Yes, and I do, but then that's not like a bad thing for one. And also, they also make great games. I think Observer is a great game. I think that a lot of people would disagree with me, but I think The Medium is a great game. In terms of it being on the IGN scale, like an 8, I would probably go there. I think some of the set pieces and moments in The Medium are fantastic. I think that it is a very risky business decision to make horror games, unless you're making it on a micro budget as like an indie developer. And part of the problem part of the reason I should say why I think that Bloober Team has this perception is that they make bigger budget horror games that get bigger marketing budgets and get put in front of more people. And I think, and this might sound judgmental or mean, but I think that there is on the fringes of gaming fandom, the people that are kind of more core and more in the know, people like I'm not trying to brag, but people like me, people like you, people that write for Season Gaming, journalists, etc., people that are in like the thick of it. We are able to look at fringe games or like weird games and see them as like being unique and interesting, and we can see a game that is a 7 and be like, that's a good game, a 7's good. A large majority of gamers will look at a 7 and say that's trash. If it's yellow on Metacritic, it's trash. And Bloober Team, unfortunately, makes 7 or 8s, but they also don't get to make them in secret, like some other like cult classic games that people really like. but they make these bigger budget games that are not big budget in the sense that they are Silent Hill or Resident Evil, but they are big enough where people see them and they see the reviews, and they're based on IP that people like or know of, at least, like the Blair Witch Project, or they have this composer of Silent Hill making the music for it, things that get it in front of people, and those people see that 7, and they see that 7 a lot because Bloober Team makes good games, which should be a phrase that any developer would want to hear. But they make yellow games on Metacritic, and
I hate that saying a game is good is like a bad thing. Don't you hate that? It is like like if perfect has become the enemy of good, and I hate that. It's like a good thing is a good thing. Like
yes, and I think we should be praising Bloober Team because like I was trying to get to this. I know I'm scrambling. I'm scrambled right now, but horror games are risky because people don't typically buy horror games because people are fucking scared of horror games. So they're never really known as being great sellers, except with few exceptions like Silent Hill, Resident Evil, etc. If you go back and look at like the PS2 Xbox generation, they made that's when 3D started coming in and lighting engines started to really work, and that's when horror games started to really be possible, because they did have stuff like Sweet Home on NES that was a horror game, but it really wasn't.
And Resident Evil was based on from that. Sweet Home was kind of like the prototype.
Yeah, it wasn't until you were able to add like higher quality audio and sound and actually have like darkness and shadows be something that like you could render and see. So in that era, PS2, Xbox, GameCube, and maybe late PS1, stuff like that, PC, there was a lot of horror games that did not sell. They did not reach that Resident Evil or Silent Hill level, and they all just flopped because it costs a lot of money to make games, and people are scared of horror games, so the target audience is very small. So to have a studio that only makes horror games, only makes good horror games, and obviously makes profit off of all these games because they keep making them, that's something that's very rare. They're like a unicorn in a sense in this business because no one else is really doing this. Like, who else is consistently making horror games?
Yeah, especially the great ones are few and far between. So it's like at the very least, someone tried to crack the code to make it like in the mid-tier budget and in the good range for people that like that genre. So it's like I don't mind Bloober Team. I know a lot of people are kind of like being hard on their Silent Hill 2 remake, which I kind of get because obviously Silent Hill 2 is very how can I say this? It's a very seminal game. It's a very important game, and people kind of want that to have more prestige than Bloober Team kind of like has in them. But obviously because they kind of like operate like in the good mid tier, so it's like I kind of get it. But at the very least, it's like they're more consistent than others. Besides probably Capcom, that is like they hit a high quality level of consistency that has been rewarded in the market too. So what game you're gonna show?
Do you know, this sucks for audio listeners, but do you know what game this is?
Cold Fear. Oh my god. Man, I remember that one.
Do you know who makes this?
Bloober Team?
No.
Who did that one? Oh wow, damn.
Yeah, Ubisoft made a horror game. This because everyone made horror games back then. Ubisoft made this, and this game is awesome.
Yeah,
it's kind of like Resident Evil on a boat. They have awesome kind of mechanics where like the boat moves in the waves and it kind of affects your movement. It's cool. But it flopped because people are scared of horror games and they don't buy horror games.
Yeah,
I have a stack of them. Like the Suffering got a sequel because it was okay in terms of its reception. Obscure is a game like this, and if you look at price charting and you go on PS2 and look at most expensive games that are not like press kits and shit like that, most of them are horror games.
Yeah,
Quan, I think it's like a horror game from Software. I think it's pronounced Quan. It's KOUN or something like that.
Yeah.
That game is like the most expensive game on PlayStation too, because it flopped so hard. They only had one print of it, and now FromSoft is like obviously in vogue, but nobody cared because people are not going to buy it because it's a horror game. So for a developer to consistently be making horror games, the only way that they can do that is if the games are selling enough to make their money back, and they are.
Yeah, because it's like games are not charity work. It's like you keep making it if you're making the dough, and they clearly are with all they're making. So I am really, really curious to see like when we're gonna see more about this like horror game that Nintendo teased, like probably hopefully in the next direct that They usually time it for around September. We'll see. But it's like it's to me, it's like what's funny with Nintendo, you know what they are usually about. They're like so tried and true with what you expect. That then when something out of nowhere and new comes already, it feels like more momentous, even though the other console manufacturers give us more new stuff more often. So yeah, really curious. Yeah, really curious to see that, because that's the thing. Like, Nintendo usually doesn't put their weight behind anything if they don't believe in it. So the fact that they gave airtime to this is like something to really like keep an eye out.
Hopefully, if you think about it, like what other game did they give this type of marketing treatment to? Because I never thought of it from that perspective that you just mentioned. Like, they don't normally put their weight behind stuff that they don't believe in.
Yeah, especially this Nintendo nowadays. That is like the quality, like Nintendo, like compared to even PlayStation and Xbox, like is usually very consistently high. So
yeah, this is the part of the reason why everybody was so excited, is because this is not normal. Nintendo does not do this. So most companies don't do this. Like first party, they want to do like have these big showcases they pay for. They want the reveals there. So yeah, I don't know. I still, like I said, I'm still not 100% convinced it is a Bloober Team game, whatever that may be. I am holding out hope that it's some kind of Eternal Darkness something.
I would love. It's like I'm still hoping. There's so many GameCube games that still can make their way back. That is like the Switch has been the era to make a lot of the forgotten games like big successes, because like we have an engaged audience now. So.
They could literally, like, obviously they can't get the same developers to make it because they're like gone from they're deleted, but like from a budgeting perspective, Nintendo could, if they revealed, like theoretically, let's say they get a second party team, let's say it's Bloober Team or someone like Bloober Team, to make a sequel to Eternal Darkness, they could fund the entire budget of that game and more, plus also the budget of making a remake for the original Eternal Darkness based on just the sales from that remake.
Yeah.
They could, the budget it would take to make the remake and the budget it would take to make the sequel and then make profit on top of that would all come from just the sales of the remake, and then everything that the sequel sells is just pure profit. That's how ravenous like Nintendo's fan base are, and how easy it is for them to do stuff like this.
And I even saw like recently, like they praised all the sales for Pikmin 3 and Tears of the Kingdom and I don't remember what was the other game that they praised. It's like this vastly different sales numbers. They praise all of them, and it's like Nintendo, the one that understands like how much you need to budget something to be successful, compared to like the greed that usually, like, if something doesn't hit always these marks regardless of what it is like it's considered a failure everywhere else. So really curious. Let's hope, like, again, like kind of like I mentioned to you, that Nintendo rarely puts their weight behind something like this. So it's like this is the time for them to strike with that. So
that makes me even more like, hearing you say that from that perspective, that makes me even more excited. And I was already pretty excited.
Yeah, it's always fun to understand, like when you like really understand the moves a certain company makes, and like based on that, it's like it gives extra weight of when they do them. So with that, Eric, that was the end of the quick headlines that were there. We still like managed to have like great conversations about all of them. Now let me finish it by reading you the release, the releases for the week of July 14th to July 20th. I tell you, it's a lot of games. So on July 15th, we get Darkest Dungeon 2 coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4 and Switch, and Supernatural coming to PC. On July 16th, we get, holy crap, there's a lot of them, Aerial Knights We Never Yield coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Deliver Us the Moon on Switch. Evil vs. Evil on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Flock coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. And Let's School also coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. And Magical Delicacy coming to Xbox Series X, Xbox One, and PC. I assume that's a Game Pass game, when it's usually just Xbox listed things. Then on July 17th, we get Nobody Wants to Die coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splinter Fate, which I think is the top-down game. That's like Diablo looking for TMNT. And then on July 18th, we get Bo, Path of the Teal Lotus coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch, and PC. Dungeons of Hinterberg coming to Series X and PC. That's on Game Pass. And also Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Also coming to Game Pass. Nintendo World Championships NES Edition coming to Switch also that same day. Skim coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on July 18th. And then the most momentous event of the year, EA Sports College Football 2025 coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, not PC, on July 19th, alongside Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess, coming to
Roll
PS5,
Tide.
Xbox Series X and S, and PC, also coming to Game Pass. What a massive list of games for next week. And a bunch of Game Pass games too. Here.
I don't know if it released on Xbox today, but Neon White just came to Game Pass today, and
that
is
today.
That's a game I 100% recommend checking. I haven't played on Xbox yet. I played on Switch, really, and the PS5 version is obviously way better than Switch version because there's no frame drops, and frames are kind of important in that game. But 100% recommend that shit. That is such a good game.
Yeah, great week for this is like an amazing middle of July week for releases with all of that. I know you're getting the Nintendo World Championship NES edition, right? Like, I saw it in our chat.
So, yeah, I got the like special edition pre-ordered. I'm getting that for sure. I don't know if I'm reviewing it yet because there's some other stuff that I have to do before that. So timing wise, and I go on vacation on the 11th. Although that being the 11th of August, but that being said, it's not really I don't know. It's not like usually the criteria for SG is like beat the game at least. Yeah. Hopefully you engage in all of the relevant things that are in the game as well if there's like other stuff. But this game is not really a game where you can beat it. I don't think that Ains gonna be like, you have to get the highest score and all the shit or else you can't review it. So it might be something that I can turn out relatively quickly. So I haven't given up on reviewing it. But yeah, we'll see. I hope to.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone's gonna do Flintlock, because right now I have nothing on the review docket until probably Outlaws, crossing fingers with that one. And that's at end of August, and it being Game Pass, like Dungeons of Hinterberg is one that I've had my eye on like for a while. I really love the art stuff for that one, so I'm definitely gonna be all over that one. Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess, I tried the demo. I liked it way more than I was expecting, and the fact that it's on Game Pass is like, that would have been like, okay, I like this enough. I'm gonna wait for a sale, but it being on Game Pass, like, I'm gonna keep trying it here.
I didn't play the demo. I downloaded it, but I forgot about it.
Yeah, it was more.
What is it like? Because I still don't understand from the trailers like what the game is.
Yeah, so it's like an action game that has like a very like far off perspective that can be like button mashy, and then you have like strategy style like sequences where you have to like command different places to think about it like Plants vs Zombies almost, with a little bit of like action that's close to not quite Devil May Cry but not Souls like.
That kind of sounds like that Double Fine game. What's it called? Brutal Legend.
Brutal Legend, yes. It has big Brutal Legend energy, but in like samurai era in RE Engine, they definitely give it a shot. It's like, it's weird, and like obviously if you don't have Game Pass, it's gonna be a $50 game from Capcom, so that kind of gives you an idea. That kind of
I didn't realize it was budget. Cool.
Yeah, so it's like more budget and at least experimental. And I'm not a football guy, but the fact that there's so much hype for NCAA coming back,
I am, but I'm still so worried that it's gonna be a Madden reskin.
Yeah, that's my big fear, because I'm like, they barely are able to crank a yearly Madden now. It's like, it's just the biggest of reskins and buggy and all that. It's like, my favorite memory, like my favorite tradition is always watching the Angry Joe Madden review every year, because like it's so hilarious that he always dedicates that much time to play all through Madden to trash to trash on it in an authoritative way. But it's because like it's just wild how much like little effort EA puts. So it's like, I would hope that NCAA the big return is just not a Madden reskin, but the hype around it is wild. It's really wild seeing like how hype people are for this one. So I'll keep an eye out on that. I don't know if like I'm gonna buy it for full 70, but we'll see for that one. But I'm gonna be that week.
Did you see that? I don't know if you wanted to talk about this in the news, but did you see that the PlayStation Plus catalog for July was revealed today?
Yes, Remnant 2 is there. Crisis Core is also there.
Crisis Core, No More Heroes 3, Jackbox Party Pack 9,
Travis Strikes Again from No More Heroes 2 also.
Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord, and Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous is there. If you haven't got to play Baldur's Gate, or you're priced out of Baldur's Gate, or you're not sure if you would like a game that's more like a Dungeons & Dragons style game, this thing is not as good as Baldur's Gate. Obviously, it didn't win Game of the Year or anything like that, but this could be Yeah, it's definitely in that vein, and it has very deep mechanics. It's very good. Pathfinder, if you really don't know much about like tabletop RPG, Pathfinder is like the Pepsi to Dungeons and Dragons Coke. Like it's another kind of a set of rules, and it's pretty cool. And there's also one thing that is pretty sweet is with PS Premium, they're actually throwing in a job simulator for PSVR 2 and. I think it's the remake, right? PSVR 2, it says, yeah.
Yeah, and they're also adding, because now the PSVR 2 games are part of the premium sub now. So 1 or 2 games are going to be added, and they're adding Ratchet and Clank Size Matters, which was the PSP Ratchet and Clank, and they're adding Beyond the Ark, which is also a pretty big game. Like it was a pretty popular PSP game. I saw a lot of people were like, "Oh my god, Beyond the Ark is coming back, and it's coming back with trophies." It's interesting. I was like, I remember.
Oh, I was gonna ask if there was trophies. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I think.
And Summoner for PS2, which I had never heard of.
Yeah, it's like at the very least, it's like it feels like the premium tier ever since like they fixed the PS2 emulator recently. It has been like finally getting the love it needed. Sucks that it had to take until it became so damn expensive. But
I want that Capcom game that I never had to play when I was a kid, Maximo.
Ooh, wow.
I want that.
Holy crap.
Yeah. I always saw it at like the game stores and stuff, but I never had a PS2. So
yeah.
Give me that.
Yeah. A lot of, and these things are launching on July 16 on top of all of that. So that's if you're in either subscription, you're gonna be eating good in this middle of July. Again, like dry year, Eric. Dry year.
So dry.
So Eric, because it's very late where you are, I realize tell us, where can people find you as we wrap up?
Yeah, you can check me out on Twitter at GamePositiveYT or on YouTube at GamePositiveYT. I haven't actually. I know I talked about restarting the podcast when Alex joined for E3, but I haven't. Life has just been literally insane, especially stuff at work. So I haven't gotten to do as much as I'd like to, but I still plan on doing that on getting that back up and running more regularly. There is some stuff you can check out there if you wanted to over on YouTube, but also I would recommend joining, if you haven't already, the Season Gaming Discord channel. There's talk happens on that channel every day about games. Lots of cool people there. Highly recommend it.
Absolutely. Yes. And you can find me at @A_Segovia on Twitter/X. You can find me at Alejandro_Segovia93 on Instagram /Threads. And you can find my current reviews for this year at seasongaming.com. So I always list them. You probably already heard all the reviews I've done so far. So and with that, we have reached the end of this week's episode of the Xbox, and it felt good to take a week off because I rarely take weeks off for like a weekly schedule. But glad to be back in the saddle. Happy to have you back in the show, Eric. Let me know whenever you want me back in yours. If you need like a guest spot, I'm always open for that. And cool. if you like this episode, give us a like, give us a subscribe, leave us a comment, tell us what you like or you didn't like, or tell us what your favorite game of this year is so far. Is it a dry year? I don't believe so. Make your case down there. But until then, enjoy everything else that's happening right now as we're in the middle of the scorching summer. And if you're not being hit by hurricanes, which is what's happening in some places south, hopefully you're enjoying the sun, enjoying the summer, touching some grass, and not playing a bunch of games, and press X to play. See you all later. Hasta la vista, babies.
See you later.